I've had two tenants complaining about each other for 2 years, and I finally realized I've been handling it wrong. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alexander Akabogu. Welcome back to the Engineering Basketball channel, the channel where myself, a degreed engineer and computer scientist, as well as a former college basketball player, high school basketball, middle school basketball coach, and skills development trainer, come to you to show you how I approach the game of basketball that I've been playing since I was, a young boy, as well as my profession as an engineer, where I've been working for 10 years and counting. I approach those things the same way. I systematize my engineering workflow, as well as I systematize developing myself as a basketball player. And this is what I try to push onto the people that I coach and the way I even watch the game. I want to talk about something unrelated because this channel is still talking about excellence, and one of those things is owning real estate. Dealing with people is always something you have to deal with, right? I have I have a multi-unit that I have a tenant on top and a bottom of each other. One tenant's upstairs, one tenant's downstairs. There have been back and forth noise complaints from each tenant. And the way this happens is top tenant maybe has gotten a small dog. That small dog runs up and down and round and round and round, or so the bottom tenant says. Runs up and round all hours of the day. When people who live in the home come back from work, they're excited and the dog runs, almost having a terminology that she used called the zoomies. You can look that up. You let me know what you think. The bottom tenant says that she cannot get any sleep, and to combat that sleep, she has to try to put on a noise machine, a sleep machine, try to watch her TV a little louder so she can, mitigate, control some of the sound that she hears on a daily basis. Vice versa. Top tenant calls me and says, "My dog has been quiet. They don't even move around. She just sits on my lap while I do work all day. We have added carpeting to our runways to mitigate this noise suppression. And what we hear is banging, banging, banging from the bottom tenant going up, apparently trying to combat, or the loud TV combat the noise that they don't even think that they're making." I've communicated this back and forth, back and forth. This conversation is emotional versus documented. This is not a documented conversation. This is just conversations and text message complaints back and forth. This is why landlords get stuck, right? I thought owning this place, there are two adults well into their 50s, who could learn to coexist because they've been living with each other for 8 years. Prior to even when I bought the unit, I inherited these tenants. They've been living with each other for years, right? They can't still solve this themselves, and I myself have been doing this wrong, so I have made a shift from the mediator to the system operator. If there's an issue, I need to build a process to solve that problem. Let me talk about it in a system first, and then I'll talk about people. Inside a system, I need to introduce written complaints, formal written complaints. I've emailed a message to both of them saying that we will use this structure, this process, to submit complaints. Those complaints will have some details in it: the day, the time of day, the length of time, and the type of complaint. Just give me some short description as well of what you're going through at that time. I want that to be in email and documented and sent to me, just so we can track these things. That also enforcing the lease, right? The lease does say we need to mitigate noise complaints. Noise complaints are pivotal in our conversation here. So make sure that inside your lease you have conversations that you can refer back to mitigate noise complaints. These are the things that I'm doing to implement processes into these future problems that we're trying to control. Now, outside of systems, into people, I think it's easier to call and complain. Easy to call and complain, right? But if you have to do work, to create these complaints, then maybe they are not as bad as you think, if that makes any sense. It's easy to call and complain, but if you have to create, document, and write these things down, maybe there's things you can deal with, or vice versa. If you know you're being complained, maybe you'll mitigate on both ends. This is the game plan where I started this. I call both tenants. I communicate the new process to them and what we're going to follow going forward. I require email documentation, and I want a formal warning that this may be a non-renewal decision. Right? If we cannot solve these problems, then maybe we don't renew our leases. Right? Maybe we don't. The takeaway for this conversation, and I really want this to hit home, is you don't solve tenant drama. You install systems to expose the problem. That's the biggest thing that I'm conversing here. You need to install systems that expose the problem, and then at that point, maybe one tenant has to go, maybe another tenant has to go, maybe they want to leave on their own, maybe they solve it that way. But this is going to solve the problem as opposed to me trying to continuously mediate grown adults. That's not a long-term thinking. So this is something I want to document, something that I can refer back to when I have issues with tenants, top and bottom, or whatever the case may be. I think this is relatable. The reason I made this video is because it's relatable to a lot of landlords, right? A lot of people deal with this. And it shows also the change in my control, the change in my management. Instead of undocumented and random calling and all the case may be, I want to grow in my leadership. And it positions me as someone who's learning and executing. Those are the things I really want you to emphasize to understand what I'm doing here. So please, in the comments, let me know what you guys are dealing with as landlords, or maybe you know somebody who's dealing with this as landlords. There are hundreds of horror stories, right? Nothing is easy. Nothing good is easy. So this is not something that should take you by surprise, but you should just be informed that there may be some systems you need to implement to expose the problem. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.